like sick bugging you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it when I'm leaving you always get sick?
I don't know. What happened last time too?
It did. Like you were like fighting. You were fighting a good fight.
Well, I just get sick all the time, no matter what.
Considering how like kick ass you are, I don't understand. Well, you're on children a lot.
Oh yeah, no, it's 100%.
Like you're on
Well, yeah. So I'm around children, and then I also didn't go to school, public school, so I didn't get exposed to all that shit as a kid at the high rate that kids do.
Oh, I forget that you did not like.
So like my immune system didn't get tested as hard as it should have when I was a kid, so now I pay for it here.
Her immune system didn't get it, but her brain system got instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that. That's not cute.
No, we're not doing an intro yet.
Why is she yummy? Oh, we're not. Oh yeah, we're not even.
No, we're recording.
Oh.
Yeah.
Doing another blooper.
Not doing a blooper. I'll just cut it out. Not a big deal.
I feel like it's more fun when people say that you ridiculously authentic.
Oh, I guess so. True. Very true. Last season when we were wrapping up, I was also sick. Like the last 2 or 3 episodes, I was sick.
I'm so glad I didn't come out here with the allergies because my nose was literally just like
drip, drip, drip. Yeah, I always get congestion.
This would have been a crusty little.
I never get a runny nose. I'm so jealous. Mine's always like can't breathe. I'm always congested.
I don't know which one is worse. I mean, I don't know if I want
congestion, 100%.
Because I mean, I grew up in the time where you just stuck a piece of tissue in your nose and you just walked around with the tissue in your nose.
Yeah, or you just have tissue in your pocket. You got a runny nose. At least you can breathe. At least you can sleep. You know, if you're congested and all, you just can't, like, you know what I mean? Because you already probably got a sore throat, and then you got to sleep with your mouth open because you can't breathe through your nose, and that makes a sore throat worse. So you wake up and you're just fucked. Like, like I had to take a not decently long. It was only about probably 15 minutes, but that's long for me. Decently long shower, just hot ass water to even be alive.
I keep feeling in the military because I'm like 15 minutes. Like, yeah, I'm such a showerer.
Oh, well, I mean, sometimes I do 2 showers if I need to, but it might be a total of 30 minutes, but I would shower before bed, but I woke up so congested and, like, you couldn't even, like, see the distinction of my cheekbones when I woke up this morning. I was so, like, I looked like I got stung by a bee, like, I was all purple down here, I was like,
I don't know what it is. Why did we get in this room and we start yawning, even though I got nice, good sleep, but we get in this damn room.
It's just, I think it's because we did, like, when we have those super intense conversations.
Oh, I feel like I don't count our creativity as energy.
Oh, it is, though. Well, even if it's not creativity, even if it's just, especially you, because I feel like you've been doing so much work on yourself, even if it's just the act of...
I'm the problem, guy.
Well, no, but, like, just the act of realization that there are things that you can fix, and there's those light bulb moments, that's taxing as fuck. You know what I mean?
This last trip, you know, because I don't like I come back to visit and hang out and vacay to do this, and then I also just happened to be with on some holidays and special occasions. But yes, this most recent visit has been a kick in the dick, balls, and just I don't have kids, so whatever. But any awkward, funny bone, like that would hurt. That's what the emotional drain happened on.
Oh really?
Yeah, I feel like
you've only been here like a fucking 2 weeks, right? I forget. I can't remember.
No.
A week and a half?
No, since the 5th.
The 5th of. Well,
no, I'm lying. I'm a liar.
It's like 2. Yeah, I was like, it's not a month. Get out of here.
10th.
Yeah, it's just been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember because you come and give me hugs at work. Like, of course I remember.
I love that part of my day yesterday. Like, bitch, give me a hug. I was like,
yeah. I was talking with a parent, and you were just standing there, and it's like.
because you're never on that side of the JoJo, so I'm like, this is the weird
Yeah.
add-on part.
I know.
Like, come on, the grandma's house door, and I'm like,
yeah, right.
And then you're just standing there looking all like, I'm like.
Well, no, it's if the parent hadn't been trying to ask me a question, it would have been fine. She could not get her question out. It was like, well, let's not talk about that.
It was like watching a fart. Holding a fart. But yeah, no, normally we usually greet each other really easily, but she was like, it was that moment, I was like,
It was a little awkward. It was like, we're.
I was like this.
It's like in hug limbo. Like,
Bye.
I did. He was standing there like this big old dude in the hallway, just like.
And just awkward. And, you know, I'm starting to recognize that I'm not a small man.
No, just starting. Come on. Just starting.
In the sense where I'm like, okay, bitch take up a lot of room. But not like in a bad way. But, you know, because I looked at my pictures. Ooh, Jesus. Last year, I was tubby. I didn't realize I was so tubby.
Oh, okay. So I got you.
But either way, I was so good. But
yeah.
I did not realize how much space I take up until I'm around people such as yourself and little hallways with little people. And I'm like, I need to be careful how quick I move because I will knock down 5 people. And I'm not even like, I'm 6 foot and 213.
You're above average for the average male in America. You know?
You hear that, guy?
Like, way above average. I think the average height for a male in America is like, what, 5'11" or something?
Please don't fact check us, but just let us know in the comments if she's correct. I feel like that's one thing that I've learned is that we're not like, again, we like to say this occasionally, but we're not experts. I'm not a psychologist.
Not at all.
I'm not a counselor. He's a grief counselor, but that's about it. I have no credentials other than life kicking me in the tits.
I also have the life kicking me in the ass credentials. I have that as well.
You do, but it's funny, at our age difference, I was like, girl, for what I feel comes to every person at certain milestones in their life, you are so ahead of the game.
Well, thank you. Be that as it may, at least, like, it's never too late. Some people just choose to stay in that swamp forever, you know? And even though it seems like you're trying to say that you came to it later in life than you would have liked, at least you're starting to head that way. Rather than staying stagnant, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that leads into what this episode is about, which is what is, I mean, it's your question, but it's like, what enslaved you?
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to add on to that, not only what enslaves you, but what types of prisons have you been building yourself in for umpteen times? You know, like,
explain the difference.
Like, sometimes, you know, like, people who self-sabotage, people who, like, you know, it's like, yeah, you're enslaved, but did you build your own prison, though, too? Because, you know, that's the thing as well. It's like, you can be enslaved, or you can also be the reason that you built your own prison, too.
Well, I think they're actually the same, because you could argue your own, it has to do with your self-image. Like, your own perception of what you're only allowed to be enslaves you. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
You know what I mean, though? Does that make sense?
I do and I don't, because I'm like,
So if you mentioned self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Right? So if a person is constantly self-sabotaging, why? What causes the self-sabotage?
And is that because they're enslaved, or is it because they're...
Oh, well, I know. I think they're the same, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, I feel like they're the same cloth, one's cut at a diagonal, one's cut straight down.
I guess so, maybe.
I love that analogy. It was the best way I could explain me.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I feel like, yes, they live in the same house, but one's a window and another's a door.
Got you. But in any case, welcome to Still Podcast.
Hi, I'm Brandon.
I'm Sierra. And welcome to the nonsense.
Yeah, welcome to the nonsense that eventually evolves us all into being sensible.
Oh, well. Take that for what you will.
No,
we're two people talking.
Yeah, we're two people talking, and it's not small talk, and it's not lame.
It's definitely not lame.
It's really, we try not to make it lame. I mean, I think this season and this topic and this journey that we're on right now for season 2 is all about, I feel like it's more than just fucking passion. I love that I think our season is all about passion, but I feel like it is the paragraph, pinholes, just I can't. I think the word "warden" is coming. Excuse me while I get back into myself. Word. I'm just gonna. I can't wait till we get a production team where they can just like shoot you and you can be like, and they can just have like.
Oh my god!
They just put me like in jail. And like warden.
The animation team. Dude, that'd be so cool. One day, if we ever get that big, like, I hope we do. But if we ever do,
If you have
so
not learned
hilarious.
anything about me and what I talk about is we talk about shaping manifestation. You mean when we are big, not if?
Well, I don't believe.
about?
I don't.
Man.
Hold on. I don't believe in manifestation
Ooh.
as a concept, like how people do, like really hot button buzzword type. I'm gonna like, no, I don't believe in that shit. Go do it.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Cause what? So here's the science I think behind manifestation.
For the record, pause. Fucking statement. Let's talk about this one because I believe, like, I want to dig into this.
Okay.
This is some shit. Because you are the first young person that I have come across
Really?
in a similar circle that I would have, like, maybe kicked it with or maybe been ostracized from, I don't know. Who's like, I don't believe in manifestation. I feel like that's what I feel like that's literally what is in, you know how we talk about parroting and people just picking phrases for fucking phrases, like, you know, when people say,
like,
oh my god, that's so chic. It was like
oh yeah, they just parrot.
People
yeah, they do. And I hate that.
using the manifestation
It's
fucking word
It's
like
annoying,
it is toilet paper to ass wipes.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was
Well, so let me explain. So what exactly happens when you're talking about manifesting? What do you have to do, right? So obviously you have to have a goal. Would you agree?
I want you to drive this.
No,
car
I want this interaction though. You agree?
Yeah.
Like in order for manifesting to even work, you have to have a goal. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So in order to have a goal, you have to think about what you want. You have to actually identify what exactly it is that you want, and then you can set a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, where people start to divert with the whole manifesting thing is, I feel like the concept of manifestation as you're talking about it is there's something outside of yourself pushing that to now happen since you simply vocalized it. And I think that's just not true. I think what happens is when people get clear on what they want and they're driven, they start to make choices that eventually allow that to happen. Because you've identified what it is that you want. I mean, of course, it doesn't always happen, but you're much more like, if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, right? If you don't identify what that is and you just go, damn, I'm fat. Well, that's, you know what I mean? Like, if you just take the opposite mentality of, fuck, I'm fat. That's never going to get you anywhere. And you might be able to say it in your head, like, it would be cool to lose 50 pounds. That may or may not get you anywhere. But then if you have intention with yourself and you say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, then you're already more likely to start making choices that will help that happen. And I think people just, for some reason, they want to say, like, oh, it's the universe, oh, it's this and that. It's like, no, bitch, it's statistics. Like, if you put it in your mind and you say it out loud and you do that enough and you practice it, it's a mantra, right? It's saying it over and over, and it's like it's focusing and it's meditating on it. You think you're not going to be subconsciously, like, here's a good way to put it. You know how you never notice some cars on the street, but then as soon as you buy that car, you see them everywhere? That's how it is with opportunity. So as soon as you focus in on a goal, all of a sudden you start to randomly see opportunities that present themselves that would help you achieve that goal more clearly than you would have if you hadn't specified that goal. It's just statistics and mindset. It's not the universe drawing all this shit around you. I think it's just having a clear head of actually what you want, and then going and doing it. Just go put in the fucking work.
I love how you're such a realist. I also am just reflecting off the moment we really kind of bonded when you're like, I read Atomic Habits, and you're like, I fucking hated that book.
Yeah, it was annoying.
And
Rob just bought that book, by the way. I was like, man, I could have gave you the Spark Notes.
This is so I feel like we've never really had like a moment of like true like I think I've always tried to see the middle ground in what you've provided in your perspective, because, you know, I like throwing youth and age out there in the thought process about it because I don't think it has anything to do with it, but and I also think, again, it has a lot to do with the environment. You had a completely different environment and exposure to choices, actions, consequences,
Yeah.
and things like that. And I just breached the surface of this new book called Dark Psychology by what's his name? Warren Cooper. I think it's Warren Cooper. When you said mantras and things like that, there's a form of that in the book. I've been like just barely scratching the surface, but they talk about some of the triads of that of like dark psychology. And one of the biggest places that you see dark psychology is in politics, military, and advertising.
What do you mean when you say dark psychology?
I think that's what I'm trying, and I was trying to find a way to not fully bring it up. I'm now still trying to navigate what that actually means to me, because when I thought of it, I was like, this is some horrible, you're trying to get people to kill themselves. But it's not bad at all.
Is it like
it's truly the self, it's the practice and the acknowledgement and the tools and techniques of what true individual manipulation for only you beneficial like outcome, instead of like I'm trying to persuade people for the collective greater good. No, I'm trying to persuade people to do exactly as I desire or want. Manipulation, but they break it down into all the categories.
Oh, absolutely.
So
the military couldn't exist without manipulation.
True, but there are tiers of what that is. So when I connected the dots of like your environment and the word and how I see manifestation, we're saying the same things. It's just you're providing it a much more like, it ain't warm and fuzzy.
Like this is it.
It's a cold stick.
Yeah.
it ain't a hug. It's a kiss with a fist. And
here's the steps. Here's the actual reasons why it works. People want to just be like, because it takes the pressure off themselves, I think is what it is. If I convince myself that I don't have full control over it, then I can't be too upset if I don't get it. Or if it doesn't quite go my way, or if I get roadblocks, so it's not me. No, bitch, it's you. Just get out there and do it.
I feel like,
especially in America, like my God, what's holding you back? In Western civilization, what is holding you back?
I think that's too big to dive into this topic in this episode. But I do also. I do think that personally, I don't. Manifestation, yes, it requires discipline, determination, and action. You need activation energy. Period. Like you can't just be
activation energy.
So, like for people who, because remember, like the act of manifestation or the empowerment of the use of that word. I know that you feel like that word is just kind of like it's not really a thing.
Well, but, no, I'm trying to understand your take on it though.
Manifestation is kind of like it is that willpower. It is that jet engine fuel. It is that it is you breathing your own mantra, because before you had nothing. You had procrastination. You had hesitation.
Yeah.
You had planning paralysis.
Absolutely.
You had excuses. Blah 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 blah.
Absolutely.
So in my mind, it's like, okay, manifestation is almost like movement. It is almost like action. It is a kinetic word that has for me, it has an energy. It's almost like.
But does it?
I think it does, because
or is it inferred energy because of how you? Is it like influence based off of how often it's talked about in a certain light?
I think
is it a placebo?
I think if I had sex with the thesaurus and a dictionary at the same time, I'd come to the same thought process of being like, okay, manifestation, inspiration. What was the word you just finished? I could use.
Discipline?
Not discipline. There was another one.
The one I just said? I don't remember.
Sorry.
I can't remember the stuff that just came out of my mouth.
No. It was just like inspiration, manifestation, inspiration, or something like that.
Okay.
Either way, but I feel like they're the same. They're the same cousin crap to the word passion. I feel like manifestation, just like you, could be like it could be. You need to manifest.
Do you see what you just said though? You need to manifest. It's like no, you need to do. That's what I mean. Placebo? Did you placebo? That's what I said earlier. That Freudian slip that you had just now is exactly what I'm talking about. When people say manifestation, they say it in context.
Instead of saying you need to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of manifest.
Yeah.
Motivate. And maybe that's because of how it's been drilled and how I've been seeing it so much in
There's
whatever.
nothing wrong with that. I just never bought into it. So I didn't get.
You don't go to a lot of stores that I shop at where I buy this stuff.
But
But
it's borderline brainwashing. I feel like, especially with social media now.
As I'm like, that's why this book and me and this conversation somehow all connected. But again, you just kicked me in the face. Viewers, listeners, I think manifestation is not completely a fucking like pyramid scheme as it kind of feels like now.
Well, so what part of manifestation do you believe is still there?
No, I think, you know what, to be honestly true, I need to take a step back and make a different connection in reality to the real definition of what manifestation is. Manifestation actually is. Because just like in business, marketing and advertising are two different things. People confuse them all the time.
Yeah. Because I think you can use, like, I'm not saying don't use the word manifest, but the way that we've socially contributed to, it's just, it's a bit nuts.
I think it's the same way people use passion. Like, that's why I feel like even in this, even as we thought that this would be like I felt that this was going to be a slam dunk, simple conversation pathway of us really engaging in a very focused path, but it has taken us in so many different directions, which is great because I love that. But it isn't singular. No. And I feel like we just found another fucking non-singular moment that is used in dialogue. People, it's like manifest you,
Well, I mean, even just the fact that like
personal development is literally like that's like it's a cuss word. Like if you're looking at working on yourself, you're gonna hear manifest.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna hear all kinds of stuff. You're gonna plan. You're gonna hear self-awareness. What are those hot buzzwords?
And we need to be careful about those buzzwords. And I said that back in season 1 off camera all the time. I was like,
that was another topic. And I feel like, okay, so I think, you know what? I feel like you're right. We take these.
Well, but don't just concede if you. Like,
no,
if you got another argument, I want to hear it.
But because I have it in two different ways. Because spiritually, manifestation is a different feeling for me.
I'm not touched on that. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I hear how you've explained it in a way, or in a path, or in an environment, or situation where change or something is like cause and effect, like that's a different kind of like. Well you can throw manifest in the middle of that, but guess what? Cause or effect. Well, technically, effect is they have to work together. It's like driving a stick shift.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're gonna fucking die. So manifest doesn't work with stick shift moments, but it, you know.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is there is that big distinction.
It's not one size fits all.
It's not one size fits all, and I understand it. Like I definitely took it out of any sort of religious belief, spiritualist belief context. I used it strictly only in the social sense of how it's a buzzword and what people tend to sort of think. And
I feel like it's,
you know what I mean?
It's the cuss word to say you ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
So manifest. No, just put the fork down, hungry.
Exactly.
You know, and the funny thing for me when I said activation energy is literally, you know, I read a lot of Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins, I love you, I adore you. You kind of kicked me.
Are you gonna tell me what that means though?
Mel Robbins?
No.
Oh, activation energy. So her book, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the 5-second rule, it talks about like a perfect example is like open a bag of chips and you only eat one and close it. Can you do that?
You mean self-control?
No. See, I feel like that's so funny that was your first response to that thought process. Discipline? Again, still, but
also, why the fuck would you open a bag of chips and only eat one?
Now live in that space. So activation energy is kind of in the same display. Like if you are battling procrastination or laziness or there's shit you gotta do.
Right.
And you get overwhelmed or whatever the case may be. Or you just sort of so used to saying, activation energy or practice or tool or even an ideology is, you know, first thing, lay your gym clothes out and then put them on. Get up in the morning, put your gym clothes on. If you don't go to the gym, great. If you go to the gym, great. If you don't go to the gym, you did something.
So she just used a new word to talk about something that's already been defined for so long. It's nothing new.
I love it. You're so good.
But that doesn't mean anything. What the fuck is activation energy? That's nothing. That's just a word that she made up so that she could be the next buzzword. You know what I mean? It's dumb.
I hate buzzwords. Woo!
Well, but look at it for what it is. What did she lay out? Small steps. Chunk down the dragon until you can defeat it. Right? She just if you're, and it's hard. I'm not saying it doesn't take energy, mind you. I'm not trying to put that down at all. But if you really do struggle like that, yeah, chunk it up into smaller pieces until you can get with the program. Make your environment such that you can be successful. If you can't operate in a not constructive environment, then you need to make it more constructive. Give yourself more structure, lay it out for yourself so it's easier, and then eventually you're going to find it takes less activation energy to go do what the hell you want. It's discipline. You know what I mean? This term that she used is self-control and discipline and internal motivation wrapped all into one, and she just coined a new term because she just fucking felt like it. It's nothing new.
I feel like
you know what I mean?
I do, and I see it only in the channel in which you understand it in, which is very clear. And I think that's because of the environments and things that you were already exposed to, where you had there was a lot less room for alteration. It was you were in the Navy, you were on a boat, there was a lot of moments where people in the same situations in life that are not in such a structured, very defined, very there is no left, it is only right. Don't even dream of one. Don't imagine there will be a right turn because bitch is just left. That's all we're gonna do. We just don't bother. So
are you just saying that I dealt very harshly in reality my entire life?
No, I didn't say you dealt harshly. I feel
I had there was no wiggle room. I was sort of, because of the way that I was brought up and the choices that I made with my career and everything, I was faced with a very blunt reality all the time, and I was not able to, there was no wiggle room. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, your ability to kind of just cut through the bull, not cut through the bullshit, but
that's exactly what it is.
Well, I feel but sometimes I think that's a hard part about what people go through, especially someone like me, and I'm just only advocating for just different types of experiences, traumatic experience, whatever the case may be, just different life cycles. And I would look at what you've done and say, oh my God, that's extremely admirable. But I also, in my mind, I'm just kind of if I was in her shoes, what would I still be? I mean, I guess I am comparing, but I'm trying to get to it, being what if the world was would we all be better if there was no wiggle room?
Would we all be awake?
Well, awake, we mean awake in what sense?
Well, I guess, yeah, I know what you're saying. Oh, it's Rob!
Oh.
Buzz!
Oh. It's your man friend.
Whoa.
How you doing?
Good.
Come ahead, camera.
I
love this so much.
We have our special guest returning. He actually brought snacks this time.
He brought
Which is
my beautiful husband.
Her lady love. But go stand by your wife. Don't put me all the time.
He got to step over all the shit. What's he doing?
Yeah.
It's a hard shot.
Okay.
But
next time you're going to sit in this chair. So now that I know he comes from this door, you're going to be here. What
are you coming over here for?
I want to go to the gym.
Oh!
This is where he
I
works,
can't talk.
man.
Go hit the
You're
gym.
in his face.
I know, right? Thanks for stopping by. I love you.
Love you too.
Wait, did you already work out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Alright, what'd you do?
Got your dad some cookies.
Oh, we're gonna love that.
Just work for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
This is like the love language.
Oh, working out? 100%. Yeah, which I've been slacking in lately.
She just got through talking about how people need to just stop being
Let me see.
crying and fat. Just put the fork down and do what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Run.
Do you know how many people come to my husband and be like, dude, how do you look the way that you do? He's just like, I just don't eat like shit. And they're like, no, but what is it really? And it's like, I just don't eat like shit. And I'm consistent. And they're like, no, but what is it really? And it's like, dude, it's exactly what I'm telling you. You don't want to hear the answer because it takes discipline.
Well, everybody wanted to know. Everybody thinks there's an easier way to do the simplest thing.
What is what I just said? Because it takes discipline. You said easier. Yeah, I know. It's difficult. If it wasn't difficult, it wouldn't take discipline. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, that was rough. That was harsh.
It wasn't harsh. It was one of those moments where like I literally felt my age, and I was like, okay. But no, I felt my age in a very wise way, and be like, I was one step, and I can't, and I don't know what life has for everyone. I don't know where their journey takes them, but I know for a fact that there are moments where certain moral codes, moral tablets of foundation, certain muscle fibers of who you are now are tested, strained, sometimes fucking ripped.
Right.
And, you know, I love that you have a lot of power, and I love that there's always this fire in you, but I'm like, I get, in my head, I'm like, I get very protective because I also am like, this world is fucking awful. Oh, wait, okay, I take that back. It's not awful. People are attracted that are awful to that kind of power. And I know you are tough, and I know that you are so like, fuck you, stand it, like cut through the bullshit meter. But I feel like that's a light that shines so bright that I feel like there are so many psychic vampires that are like, so like, if one of you fucks my girl, but because you know, if one gets in, it's over.
Come on.
I know
You think my bullshit meter can't say that?
I get that.
I'll be going.
I know. I get that, but you know, I'm a person who used to think that I was just like, you know, I'm too aware for certain things to ever penetrate certain realities for me, and then one did, and then it's just like over from that. So, it's a kind of a reminder, and it's kind of like one of the things that like I don't think you'll ever live the same pathway that I even came close to, but I also was like, man, I remember when I was that fucking like lit. Like I was like, fuck you, because I had the same environment a little bit differently, but like you know, I had like tough thick skin.
I don't think it's about like fuck you energy though. I
feel like that was my my way of like being like I had to be like.
I think it's just truth.
I think it's so. I like yes, it is truth, but I think it's the truth you know for yourself, not the truth of an environment or the truth of like. Because, you know, because I feel like I've experienced and really navigated the truth you tell yourself, the truth you're told, and the truth that is. I feel like they're in these different variations because I've had to live.
I think you might have just, like, conflated the word truth, though. Say that again?
No, like, there's versions of the truth. Like,
did you say truth to yourself?
The truth you tell yourself.
The truth
other people tell you.
Okay.
And then I guess the actual truth.
Yeah, I don't think these two are true. So what you tell yourself, that's not always true.
True, but that's...
Okay, so that maybe that is the reality of what you do. Maybe that's factual. You tell yourself these things. Does that mean those things are truthful? Fuck no.
No.
Same thing for other people. So maybe they tell you something, or you're told that this is X, Y, and Z. This is how you do this thing. This is how you act this way. It's like, whatever. That doesn't mean that it's going to do you any good, or that it's the actual right way to do something, or that whatever they're saying is truthful. Mm-hmm. It's just a fact of what they said. And then there is the truth, which is what I believe in, which is unchanging. Like it's not unchanging in the fact that like it's going to be true no matter what because it is true. That's the definition of truth. Something that cannot be proven false.
Okay. Man.
I don't believe in all these like.
You're
I think
you're not you're not philosophical. You're like no.
Well, that's actually pretty deep into philosophy. I'm not touching on it in that way. I'm not stating it from that manner, but God, people have been questioning truth since.
Oh yeah, of course. Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always been like there's more. There's more ones. Probably just like you said. It's like,
maybe.
It's like just fun.
Yeah.
Just fun.
Well, so to back it up, what were you talking about before Rob came in?
I kind of don't know because it all kind of surprised me because it's like as we were talking about her being cutthroat and and her boob thing.
Right. We were talking about Fuck, I almost want to roll the take back.
No, I feel like, again, I don't know what it is about this topic. I feel like
Oh, we're talking about manifestation.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
we're talking about how that word is just a bunch of bullshit.
there's buzzwords around
Yeah.
buzzwords that don't align with the actual outcome, action, status of like the actual path of what is being done. You know, like
Well, I think it's worse than that. I think it's intentional misdirection, like a magician. I think it's intentional misdirection to get you focused and hyped on the next new thing, and it just distracts you from what's actually going on. You know,
but what
because someone made a choice. Someone made a choice. When you write a book,
Yeah.
everything's intentional. She made a choice to call it something new, which hopefully I think she probably knew for damn well that all that is not original. The things that she was talking, or she, I forgot, she, like none of those concepts are new, and so she just took a couple of them and wrapped it up in a bow and called it something new, and pushed that to readers intentionally with the hope of changing. And I understand sometimes you need to say something 5 different ways to try to reach an audience,
Mhm.
right? Because not everyone learns the same. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's like a sort of misdirected way to do it. I don't think that was the best way to do it. I think that was sort of deviant, you know? I think it was just, like, she's trying to just get a buzzword. She's just trying to get something that makes her known that's real. Because when you just use that so casually, activation energy, and that sounds so like, what do you know that I don't? That's a business move right there. And that's all it was. And I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's how that looks to
No,
me.
that's your perception, and that's totally. And I think that's not everyone's going to see the things that you want.
Yeah.
So, and I was only. I mean, it did something for me. It doesn't resonate, and I feel like that's why we have authors. That's why we don't have.
Absolutely.
I think that's why we have so many different levels, tiers, exposures, and variations of kind of the same thing. Like when you start reading personal development for a while, it starts to kind of read the same
It does.
over and over and over again.
Because you got to say it a different way to reach everybody. And I get that.
But the thing for me is, I look at some of those things as being like, not that it's the same repetitive material just being recycled. I feel like at least for me, I've dug deeper into being like, okay, well, why did you turn that from red to blue when it has been red in the last 5 other things that I've been seeing? So what made it special for it to be blue now?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Was it due? Like, was there a real meaning to it, or was it just a business move?
I try to take it out of those scopes. I mean, there's channels, of course. It's a book, and she's an author, and it's a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business consumerism cycle. But ultimately, sometimes it is an art. To be a writer is an art form.
Absolutely.
And I think to be a writer and an author of even like what we're trying to do, it's like we're not. I mean, like, who the fuck are we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like that's where I feel like, again, where I look at that word manifestation and being like, well, maybe what we're doing is manifesting that moment for someone to be like, I didn't think of seeing myself, the opportunity, the situation, the phrasing, the wordplay, the banter between 2 people this way. Because if they didn't have the, as you would say, dedication, discipline, and consistency to do what we're doing and to face all the fucking failures that we've had to go through.
Oh my god, yeah.
And all the things that make people want to quit or make it not easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but part of me would say we also manifest this because literally out of everything that I'm only saying this because I've been in this cycle where I've been inspired by something with another person and there was intent, but it was one-sided. And, nothing happened. It just died. And you and I came together with this type of energy, which I think manifestation is energy, or like the way I see it, not how it's maybe actually fine, but
sure.
If we both didn't have the same frequency of what we wanted or passion or curiosity, which led to, I think, our passion to this podcast, we wouldn't have this, and we would be having this very interesting all over the place conversation.
I agree. Like, it was a very stars aligned moment. 100%.
Yeah.
But I've always, maybe I didn't think about it in a podcast sense, but I have always craved the ability to have open conversations like this with a person, and in most aspects of my life, they get shut down because the other person can't keep up. They get bored. They don't have anywhere else to go with the topic. They get defensive. I've always known that I longed for that, and I sensed that openness with you. And then when the podcast idea came up, I saw the opportunity, and I said, "That sounds amazing." Just like I said, I knew I had a goal. I wanted to, and I have that with my husband, of course. It's a little bit different, but I have it with my husband in a way that it's satisfying to me. And then it's definitely very different with you. And I think just like with my husband and with you, that's how it is with Liam. This is that exact energy that I crave, that I love so much. I can have these deep, intense conversations, and I when I have that goal set out, and I'm going to look for that with people. I don't bring people into my life very much. You can ask Rob. I got no friends.
Yeah, we talked about it in season 1 where, we didn't talk about that directly in season 1. We talked about how people just don't know how to vibe with you. And then you are now like, I'm not changing my frequency, or I'm not changing the V to Helvetica font. Bitch is bold and that's it. Like, I'm not, like, and
it's probably pretty rough. Sorry.
Well, I think it's a different layer of self-awareness that you provide or possess and exude, and it's not exude, because I feel like exude is more like you put on, that you just have. Like, that's just you naturally.
I agree.
And people either accept it or don't. But I also think in that same simple equation, I think people also cower from it, run from it.
Sure. And
purposely try to say, well, you're just misunderstood. And like, well, then that's fine. Or you're too much. And I love what I keep hearing.
Usually I'm just bitchy. I just got resting bitch face. I'm just rude. That's usually what I get.
And literally, in some of the journey of PD of like understanding people, when people do that, I'm like, well, you're recognizing the thing that you do not like in yourself, which is why you're giving it to her as like feedback.
I don't even have to do that though. That comparison you just made, at some point in my life, I just started to just go, okay, that doesn't even matter. I don't have to go, you're this way because of blah, 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 which means it doesn't have to affect me because that's not my fault. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the power of your fuck bank is just like, it's just like, she doesn't make deposits or withdrawals. She's like,
the more you let other people, and this is gonna sound kind of cold and callous, and it's not like you have to.
That's the father we're going to.
Well, no, because listen, people will tell you when you're fucked up, but sometimes that's not true, right? Sometimes they'll tell you you're fucked up, and it's not actually the case, and sometimes you are, and you need to listen. So at all times, you should listen to what people say, but it doesn't define who you are. But they might be saying something you need to hear. So listen to it, and then if you can have that self-awareness to go, oh, there's a little bit of truth in what they just said. Not all of it's true, but there's like a little water droplet of truth in what they just said. Let me work on that real quick. I'll fix that. Don't worry. And then if there's people who come at you and they tell you blatant lies, it's obvious. It's like, that's actually not me at all.
That's hogwash.
And whatever you just said doesn't matter a single bit to me at all.
Man.
But you have to be able to walk the line, because I could be willfully blind and egotistical and never think I'm ever wrong about anything. And that would be arrogant as fuck. And that's not who I am. Not at all.
I think it's easily misunderstood though too, that people think that you are always intentionally trying to be right. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the case at all. I'm pretty sure you probably hit that wall where people are like, you're always going to be right. Like, no, I am.
No.
At least for me.
Yeah. I just said, like, 30 minutes ago, if you had another argument, tell me. I'd love to hear it.
Like, part of me is just kind of like, I feel like, I don't think they're arguments. I don't like that.
Yeah, as I said, I meant another aspect, another spin.
That word just sounds so inviting to such an unnecessary volume. And I'm like, arguments are
another perspective.
Yeah,
another addition, another take.
I think that.
That was not sorry.
Like, personally, my snapshot emotion is when I say it's like, I don't think enough. I feel like there are certain things that you've had the protection pleasure and maybe even passivity of not experiencing to allow some of these other variations of interpretation to kind of get in there and work their way around. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, her garden is fruitful. Her garden has very beautiful and nutritional things that it's given her life. But, you know, in my head, I'm like, but I also am like, that garden is so pristine and clean, and there's only a certain species of bugs. There's only a certain species of sunlight. There's only, you know, she can calculate when the sun is going to be at 80 degrees. They're like, and I was like, yeah, that is one powerful way to live life. And sometimes, and I used to be so driven by that because that was the only thing that kept me sane when I was in such a lot of chaos. You know, having a lot of like, just like, you know, when it came to like when my doors of my mind were closed or I wasn't giving myself to other people, that's where I was. And when I was at my most successful or balanced was when it was so like, no, we don't do apples and oranges in this garden. Did you ask for anything else? Could you just close
Right.
that soda? Like,
because that's a good way to kind of do life, you know.
yeah.
And I know what you mean, and it's not to say that I haven't had my fair share of, you know, road dirt coming into the garden.
Oh yeah, you've had some. Oh yeah, you've had
So-
some.
Some rodents getting in there,
You had
messing
some
up my
fungus.
zucchinis and stuff.
Yeah,
But
you've had some little ants.
But the difference is, I guess, maybe I just decided to do something about it, and I could have let circumstances define me, and
I think we all could have. I think some of us still do.
I just didn't. I just wanted something better, and so granted, I had the means to get myself out of it, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be more difficult if you didn't have the means. But if the passion is there, if the passion is there to move you, I think you can do it no
I
matter
feel
what.
like we should go through all the tips, just like every time we say passion, just like how many times do we say the word passion in this season? I think anyone. I feel like I bet you a challenge. If anyone,
How many times we say passion?
yeah, and then we'll total up at the end of the season, and I might create some kind of
Oh,
prize
man.
for it. That'd be cool.
Me. Do you watch our episodes back?
What's that?
Like, do you watch our episodes back?
I do all
Okay.
the time, and it's
Same. I actually really like it. I don't know why. Because I was there for that half of the conversation. But I do like it.
yeah. It's hard because you know me, I'm like all business and stuff like that. So I'm listening to it to be like, okay, let's look at it, let's understand. I'll make like I put on my business hat. And then the other hat, I'm like, oh my god, we're such goofs.
Right?
Or
No, for real.
I also look at it being like, fuck, we count. Whoa.
Like, we got some good shit in there.
Well, not only that, it's more like it's here. It's alive.
Oh, it's real. We
Real.
did it. Yeah. We're
It's
doing
just weird things like that, you know. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. And it just kind of like, to your point of being like, it ain't fucking activated. It ain't a buzzword.
Yeah.
You're more
We did that.
you're more definitive and you're more direct and you're more clear. And I feel like in that whole thought process, I think that's a passion principle. I think is for you at least, or at least like just like a component of it for you. For you, it's like if people did not have like if people don't come at you that way, they don't activate your passion to kind of connect with people in that way.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's such a sad mistake that people are so terrified, especially people but probably your age group, who are just like, no, they're the ones who are using these buzzwords incorrectly. Because I feel like the reason why I'm looking at you like, what? No, girl, that's not how I understand it. Because people of your generation, those 20-somethings, are like, oh my god, I got my stretchy phone, and I'm manifesting, and I'm thinking of abundance, and
I'm burning sage while I'm at it.
and it's like, okay, and this is one of those things where, and this again, I enjoy that I'm experiencing my life gracefully. I don't say getting older, because you don't.
Why?
Because
you are getting older.
I am okay. In the context of in this sentence, like getting older is time. Me is experience. Why I'm saying in my experiences as I've gotten older, I've been able to look at it and say I've had a different relationship with that word than you have had a relationship with that word. And I feel like as we come together when we talk about it, I'm like, girl, we're why are you so angry at this word? And then I was like, she's really pissed at this word. Oh my God. And I'm like, no, this was a magical word for me. This was a positive word for me. Just like the word activation energy was a positive moment for me. But it was because of all of my people or my age group being like, finding different ways to consume and comprehend that lifestyle or experimentation of doing the work. It is now translated to you as like, if you don't stop with these cookie cutter words, and just give it to me straight. Please stop dipping it in sugar and love and kisses. Just tell me to get my fat ass up and go to the gym.
Exactly.
I don't want a hug. I need to heal. Like that's kind of where you're at. And it's interesting because
it takes a certain upbringing.
Because I feel like that was my family. Like my parents were like,
definitely.
It was like hug, no hug, heal, figure it out. I will slap you upside the head. Like, and then we got sugar, hugs, and kisses, and cute words, and then you're like,
I just like I said, never been into it.
Yeah.
It does. I think it takes a certain. Well, it sure would be easier to just dive into that and believe it wholeheartedly and go yes and embrace all of that. I think it takes a certain kind of endurance to
it does
stay convicted,
and it can be exhausting, and it can be a race, and it can be a rat race, and it can be a rat race in the same circle, and that's what I learned with the use and determination of that word and involvement in my life. But I feel like listening to you, I'm like, ooh, she hates it. Like she hates. Ooh.
I don't hate the word.
I hate the
context in which people try to use it.
The exchange that it created for your community, or not community. I feel like making it sound so ostracized, but your time, the way that your time experiences that expression.
My generation, you mean?
Your generation.
Okay.
Your generation experiences that in such a way that with such disgust, I'm like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
That's almost like, let me go take my starter jacket and, air pump Jordans back to the time vault.
I guess
But it's interesting to know that, it doesn't resonate the same way with you, even though it's a word with a definition, and technically you're not wrong and I'm not wrong, but man, how one was wonder and yours is wounded. It's like that word is so wounded to what really needs to get done around us.
I think, because sugarcoating doesn't really help anybody.
Well, it's not. I think the sugar has been licked off of my generation, so now it is just the word. It is like, just get up, do it.
I wish. I don't think that's the case in society. No, I don't think so.
I think when it comes to invoking change or having the ability to create sustainable, consistent, without more impenetrable change, where it won't just go like, okay, hot today, cold tomorrow, hot today, cold tomorrow, warm, then nothing. I feel like there needs to be a lot more just like, no, stop, bubble letter, cute, crayon, just...
Agreed.
That's it.
Because right now I see what you were saying, where it's just hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and it's just like, but the reality of the situation is here.
Until the next one comes up, and it's like, well, this one's 2 degrees hotter, so everyone's like, take this word. I'm like, guess what? It's just temperature, bitches. So just find yours and be warm.
Right?
But all this, like, everybody do 8. Everyone, let's do 8 degrees today. It's like...
Yeah, conformity, actually. I don't know if you meant to do that, but I think conformity has a lot to do with that.
Well, as I've been reading this, I'm trying to understand, for me, my life and my experiences and my choices and my outcomes and my overview of how I want to see change, and less than the ability to want to control it and predict it so much, is to understand how it's been given to me. How has this inspiration craft been given to me? How did I look at manifestation like a world of wonder, and you're looking at it like it's a garbage can? And, and what are the mechanisms, those little tools, like you said, the brainwashing, the mind manipulation, like, because it's going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm apparently very susceptible to it.
Awake, that's what I said. I said awake. And you were like, what do you mean by that? And that's what Rob walked in. I think that was what it was, right? Either way, but we're getting there.
But I feel so in this whole thought process of passion, I feel, and just how it turned sour. You know, how what was passionate for me is poison to you.
Well, I wouldn't say it's poison.
No, girl, it's poison. The fact that, like, as an emotional person, and the energy that I got, you're like, no, it's not manifested. No, get out. Like, you're Tony Robbins, and I'm like a warm care bearer. Like, you're like, or you're also that military guy, that bald black military guy, and I need to start
Do not tell me I'm David Goggins.
You're not David Goggins per se,
but that's what I'm talking about, right?
But is that his name?
I think so. The SEAL or whoever he was. I don't know if he was a SEAL. Sorry,
he's done everything. I think.
But that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, what
he did with Rogan and all that.
His energy, his shield, his moment is like walk into the room moment. Is like I feel like yours. Like cut the bullshit. No, it ain't cute.
I guess so.
I ain't got fuzzy bunny ears. I ain't gonna give you a warm fucking hug.
Okay.
I'm not gonna sit there and, as my father would used to say, I'm not gonna fucking pussyfoot around you.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not saying that that's wrong or right. It is just also so interesting that there's very few you in your generation that are like, pussyfoot, we're the anti-pussyfooters. And then you have other people who are like, who we talked about, which we'll talk about later in another episode, is the parroting just to stay paralyzed. Like, you're just saying it. Like,
so that you can keep doing what exactly
you're doing. Or you can just stay within the cloud of confusion. Or you can stay in the cloud of, like, this is real connection when ain't nobody talking to nobody. Mm-hmm. There's really no exchange. There really is no circuit, synergy. No one's growing.
Yeah.
Everyone's going, but no one's growing.
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, okay, as a person who's up here, who's been looking at all the other channels of what I'm seeing currently happening and what I've experienced, it's like, fuck, I still have work to do from whatever I was doing in my little growing, not growing.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm looking at all the people that I'm being exposed to help narrate a new pathway, new connections, and new friendships. It's like, oh, shit.
You know, what's cool is I think this actually brings it back to the episode topic of what enslaves you. I think there's actually even a group of people that will sort of use the guise of personal growth. Like it's not like when they say they're doing it, but they're not doing it. But like the idea of being perceived.
I'm not gonna lie, I used to be so that guy.
But you know what I mean?
I don't know. I used to be like
enslaved in that idea.
Oh, I used to be enslaved in the idea of doing personal development because I read the books. Instead of being the person who was like, Brandon, did you do any of the exercises in that book? Nope. Or Brandon, did you do one of the guided journal entries when you read that book? Nope. Mm-hmm. It's like I read their information and I loved it and I retained it, but did I activate one of those tools in the time of need or when it was actually
appropriate?
Yeah, when the prompt showed up, it's like, you have the
tool to use that.
Like, why are you going for this stick? You have a hammer. Why?
Right.
And it wasn't until I started learning it when I had to really deal with, and I'm still dealing with it, boundaries and like being able to be like, no, we're gonna switch gears. Or like I've had like, no, like I don't need to explain myself.
Yeah.
I feel this need to want to, but I don't need to feel like I want to because I don't need to because it is very clear. Because no is no.
Yeah, not all the time.
And not all the time, but like my interpretation of how I feel and how I express it does not need to be further filtered down or watered down or sugar coated and wrapped in kisses and hugs. It can just be like, that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. So, what else do you think enslaves people? What are the first things that kind of come up?
We care way too much. We are starting to care way too much about how we're seen and how we're not seen, and then how that looks in a, like, everyone's like, and it feels so hypocritical to say it because, we are in a space where we're exposing ourselves to be seen, but we're also trying to not be like, we're not. I'm like,
we're trying to be genuine while we're doing
but I feel
it.
like that's the different part. So I feel like when you realize that your intent is genuine and authenticity, which I think is another buzzword that's being misused.
I don't mind that one as much, but it is
I
overused.
mind it because authenticity and narcissism and just plain old mean bullshit is not authentic.
Oh, so when people are like nasty and just like, well, I'm just being authentic.
Well,
I agree it gets misused.
It's like I feel like people we enact the things that we idolize, and when someone we act with someone that we see and mimic and idolize and blah 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 blah, and then they start their comprehension of that word now turns into the definitive like way. I'm like, no. Just like when we looked at certain specific words, like, oh, that's what it. Yeah, I didn't take it.
Oh yeah, like we think we know what words mean, but then you look up the definition and you're like,
empathy,
wait a minute.
Like I was reading
I've been
empathy
using that wrong.
Empathy the wrong way, or
Yeah.
it was for them because I used to hear all.
We'll leave that one aside.
Yeah. But I feel like, this is the kind of crap that gets us. How do you become self-aware when you become self-indulged? When you're like, I'm following my mentors or I'm on my journey with personal development, but my comprehension is not individual. It's not singular anymore or accurate. It turns into this like, I don't want to say cult, but
Well, no, I think that's a pretty good way to say it, because something that I think it's always going on, but I think is really prevalent now in particular is that people just jump on board with shit so easily, and they take it and they wrap it up and go, yes, all of that, yes, I agree with all of that, and then they embody it, which is kind of what you were talking about.
They wrap it up and then they'll just take that box and put it in a closet and never deal with
exactly.
What's
Yes, 100%. And the problem with it's like it's okay to look at something and go, oh, there's some truth in that. Oh, I resonate with that. But that doesn't mean you gotta like every single line of that book has to be true. It's a skill to be able to look at something that catches your eye or something that resonates with you, something that you think that there's truth to then analyze it and pick apart where you disagree with it. And that's okay. And then if you disagree with it, figure out why. Or if there's a way that it could be better. Or, that's okay to do. That's critical thinking.
Well, I feel like that's the space when people really challenge the norm. I feel like that's what I pretty much tried to do my entire life, being like, at first I used to be like, Brandon, you're weird. Or I used to think it was.
It was the lights.
Yeah.
Oh,
I used to think it was. I don't know. I think it was like. As I think about it now, I was like, was it a wound? Was it a disease? Was it a weird of me being so not like my younger sibling and cousins?
You just found yourself being so different.
Well, I just was experiencing different moments around the same thing that they were all we were all in the same room watching the same television, but I was like, I did not get that. y'all giggling, and I'm like, that's not funny.
Oh, right.
Or
me always.
Or
yeah.
I think I told so many people this story, but my grandmother used to take us to the mall on Saturdays, and the rule was if you guess the tax and the total correctly, not a calculator, or even sometimes in pen and paper, she'd buy it. I remember one time I wanted red Converses and a finger ring, and I just was like, and everybody wanted Jordans and OVP jackets and Jody C boots and all the fucking swag of the fucking 90s.
Mm-hmm.
If any one of you people who's watched the shows knows what I can relate to what I've just said, okay, I said OPP jacket, that's how old I am. Jody C boots, that's really how old I am. And I wanted red Converse and a finger ring, and I think this was before Spencer's made them cheaply. This was a little sterling silver from knuckle, from top to, yeah. And I think I was 10, 11, I don't know how. I was not at an age where
Right.
that's what a black boy in the South Side of Chicago would be like.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I
Well,
don't
but
know.
you embraced your tastes, you know?
I don't even know if at that point I can't even accurately, strongly, validly right now confidently say that that's what I was doing at that point.
Understood.
Um,
But at least that's how you acted.
I mean,
There was some part of you that
I was just different. I was weird, and I don't think it's any such thing as weird. I was just in a different shell, considering the yard that of where all the eggs were, hatched in.
well, but that was a choice though, because you could have looked around you and felt the pressure of how your choices were so different than the rest, and said, "Ah, well, maybe never mind." But you didn't. So
I legitimately
did, like,
didn't know how to go. Oh, never mind. I just there was
Right.
something in me,
Yeah.
period, that I can
Same.
reference it this day. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I was more curious, no, there's gonna be more. Sure. I love what you guys are doing, but I see that all the time. What about the other stuff?
Mhm.
And that's always been what about the other stuff for me.
Mhm.
Which is probably why in my life, and I don't really know that much about my family's lives outside of being family to me, but what were they like as women and men without being in a family
Yeah.
unit? I don't know anything about that.
Mhm.
I don't know, I know, no, actually I don't know. I don't know what my grandmother was. I knew what she did as a woman. I knew what she did as my grandmother, but I don't know what she did before she was my
How's
grandmother. Because it's more of those things of being when I didn't just say, fuck it, let me just be like everybody else, I didn't have anything.
there was no anybody else to. Yeah.
It was a weird. To me,
It's probably kind of cool. That I grew up in a similar way because I didn't go to public school. So this is kind of how my mom put it. She put it in such a good way. I didn't grow up, whether or not I would have succumbed to a different story, but I didn't grow up around peer pressure. I didn't grow up.
That's why you're so.
Around.
That's why you're so. That's why I feel like it's such a power, because
Agreed.
you did not have to deal with the weight of indecision.
Mhm.
You could just make a choice and that would be it,
True.
and not have anything else penetrate it negatively.
True, but I did life. I'm doing life. It could have changed.
Life and
You know?
pressure are two different things, I think. Pressure in life, and then life itself, I feel like are two. I feel like as someone who can see how you see it.
Well, my point is, I continue to do that as an adult, even when I've been put in similar circumstances. Maybe it's not high school peer pressure, but I don't know. Being in the Navy, you're always around people who smoke. I don't smoke.
Well, for
You
you,
know what I mean? There's other
I
ways
think
that
yours mutated, and not mutated.
Yeah.
I think yours elevated or went from what we would know adolescently as peer pressure to choice and discipline.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Well,
you
but some
got
people
to
get stuck in that.
you got to skip. You got to skip a line and
I
just
did.
go right into no, this isn't a sugar cup.
Yep.
This isn't a sugar cookie. It's actually a bowl of nuts. Here you go. That's what
Right.
it is, with no salt. They're just plain protein-packed nuts. Enjoy.
And coupled with the fact that I didn't deal with all of the typical things from school with other kids. Aside, well, I would say mostly. I did go to school occasionally, but it was weird. Anyway, besides that, I also dealt with adults most of my life, which you don't connect personally with adults when you're a kid because that's weird, right? There's always those barriers of authority and all those things, and so it's like a professional relationship.
Smart, you're dumb. Yeah.
No, it's a professional relationship. I didn't have peers my age to connect with because I was surrounded by adults.
Okay, I keep forgetting you were in a different environment as far as when you were around adults. You were around adult professionals.
Professionally, yeah.
And
it was a job.
And people were working. So
Yeah,
there was
I was working.
there was no second layer of okay, this is my work mode. This is me personally. Your adult exposure was no, we're working.
And I would say most all of my adult exposure growing up was under that pretext.
Mm-hmm.
And then the socializing I had with other kids was martial arts. And that's regimented.
So it's safe to say that your
I didn't get you used the word poisoned earlier. I didn't get poisoned by whatever
poised
poisoned by what floats around in that high school pool that people get subjected to. I didn't partake in that. Which also meant I connected with nobody my age forever. I couldn't make friends.
So do you feel like that's a flaw or a freedom?
I think it's a freedom. I think it's a blessing. I would never go back. Are you kidding?
I mean, I wouldn't repeat high school if you paid me. Actually, no, I take some of that back. I have to really look at stuff because that's the other thing too. When people are like in these buzzwords, I feel like they've now created buzz behaviors. So like when people like gratitude and
Well, to an extent, 'cause I agree with some of those things, but it's overused. It's like when I play a song on the radio too many times, it's like, okay, we get it. It's popular, but the song still might be good, but I'm tired of hearing it. You know what I mean?
Oh, wait, I think we all go through that.
That's what I feel like gratitude is for me.
I'm gonna
Something
change
like
the rhythm of this. What we were gonna call this episode. I feel like
I don't even know.
I think it's the passionate phrases where we were just like,
Mm.
we had talked about this weeks ago, and we were like, viewers, listeners, I would love to know if you also feel like we as a society now say I love you
Oh yeah.
so
Easily.
easily, and has that phrase changed the emotional capacity, commitment, and recognition that at least maybe other people feel differently about. Like when you say I love you, just like I know you are like, no, that's not a freebie.
Well, it wasn't always like that though. I can distinctly remember a time in my life where, based off of what I thought relationships were supposed to be, that saying I love you was just sort of like what you do. Like at some point when you're with somebody, like the feeling might be there, but there was nothing to tell me that you can reserve that until you feel like it's reciprocated. You don't have to say I love you to someone who you don't think also loves you. You know what I mean? And there was that point in my growing up where I almost felt like it was a race, and I don't, and God, it was immaturity. It's an experience. It's a maturity.
I would say an experience. I think love and the word maturity do not need to be oil and water. I feel it's a fine line. Like right now, when we're grapes when it comes to love. Sometimes it's only when we age well become a wine to love. But it's okay that we start off as grapes about that understanding.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Being these metaphors, I'm gonna try one episode to not use an off the wall.
But I like that one. That was good.
I know, but I feel like my readers. I don't know yet. I bet I'm waiting to really start to see if people really enjoy my metaphors. So they're like, dude, shut the fuck up and speak plainly.
That's what I'm for.
Yeah, the word, not metaphor, mistress. Oh, okay. Anyway, but I totally lost my train of thought. But either way,
so it's okay for that.
It's okay. I would not say like the
Yeah.
fact that you were just not reckless, but just in a state of curious comfortability around what you would connect that word to certain things. It's like plugging your phone into the right outlet. It's like
pretty much that's kind of what it felt like, and it was like over time I understood how that needed to change and evolve, and I embraced that. And it would have been probably easier to not do that change, if I'm being honest, but I wouldn't have been better off for it. So I'm glad that I did.
So how do you handle it now? Because
Handle what?
like, how do you handle it in a situation now where you have a clear understanding and relationship with that sentence, phrase, and feeling of how you show, give, say, commit, connect to the word I love you, or loving someone, or love in general? For you, it is a feeling. It is not just a word or phrase that you just throw out like a stamp on postcards.
Mm-hmm.
But how in this society do you handle it when you meet some people and they're like, oh man, I love you?
You know what's so funny? I think there was a time when my friend Ashley, we had been friends for a while, but she blurted out one day when we were I don't know if we were about to say goodbye or what it was, was if something funny happened, or I don't remember, but she laughed and she would open her arms so we could do a hug, and she said, "Man, I love you." And then I didn't say it back because we had known each other for a bit, but like not that long, and we had connected, but like not that much. And I didn't say it back, and I didn't change it either. And we laughed, and I gave her a hug, and I said, "Oh, thank you, you're amazing." And because like that,
Bullshit bears. Here they come.
but it wasn't about that. It was just I was just stunned at how easily she gave that away and said that to me. And she probably meant it. That's that. If she meant that, that's on her. That's fine. But it's just I don't have a habit of saying I love you to my friends.
Now, I'm gonna again. This is where I kind of get to be the word. So, is it a habit, or is it a feeling? Is it a function? Is it a phrase? Because it's a habit when people just do it loosey goosey. But if she,
For me,
no, I feel like in anything, like your experience with it is you see it as a habit, or is you just like in her situation?
well, here's the thing. I didn't respond with "I love you" because I'm not in the habit of. It was not a knee jerk to if she said "I love you," I'll say "I love you" back. Like that habit is not there for me to just so freely do that anymore.
Right.
And it shocked me so much that I actually just kind of didn't know what to say, to be honest with you.
Right.
And then, I mean, if that's how she
You're
felt.
caught off guard. You're like,
yeah, very
it's
much
almost
so.
like someone just giving you a random wedding proposal, like, it's a 7th date.
Absolutely. And now it's definitely, it's an earned thing with me. Because even if it's not romantic love, I do have people. You get camera shy with sneezing. We did that in season 1 too.
Snoring and yawning. Yeah.
Do you remember?
You can see
I was like, do this, and you were like, this ain't fucking happening with the. Do you remember that?
Oh no. And I got a new like Sturdy Soda one, so
Oh my
it's like
goodness.
no, I'm not doing that.
But yeah, for me, it's like there's multiple reasons that could motivate me to really genuinely say I love you to somebody, right? But that is earned and forged over time, and it's not easy. And but if I do say it, I mean it, and it's not frivolous.
In case anyone wants to know, the word love for Sierra is boot camp. Okay, you better pass. You better.
I guess
and
so.
she wants to compare you to the men's requirements, not these little bullshit
Right?
women's ones per episode 2.
Mm-hmm. Facts with that analogy.
So-
Facts.
Just so you know, if you ever see her on the street, don't you dare say you love her, because she will little look at you like,
just
liar. You just sit there going,
yeah. Well, and then I think we had talked originally about like how that's tossed around so easily in the gay community as a word of acceptance. I think, you know.
I can say the same word for bitch and fag and blah, blah. So I'm gonna take that and let's dial that one back. I definitely will go into that one
Oh, okay.
because I feel like it is also the icebreaker for someone who is feeling. It's that stamp of approval, like, oh my god, girl, I love you. And it's when they are accepted. I feel like it's now like everyone's been, because gay men, people in general. I gotta stop taking out of these contexts of societies and cultures and constructs. People in certain groups and connections and environments in certain times and places and experiences can be assholes. Period.
Yeah.
And can be resistant, can be fearful, can project that fear as being nasty or standoffish or whatever the fuck. But there are these other, like, I'm gonna probably activate the word when I say this. There are certain like I don't know. I'm like I don't want to be.
What is it?
There are certain things that in at least for me and just what I've experienced and just that my community and the community. Is that there are certain things that are just unspoken accolades and certifications and validations and just like click, clack, clack, like just like turn left, turn right, don't do that, do this, just like unspoken
rules. You mean?
unspoken behaviors, unspoken things. We're not going to talk about the unspoken things in other places because that's not the episode we're going to do. But sometimes like when I was dating this person, and I met his best friend like that first night.
Mm-hmm.
And normally that's odd.
Yeah,
It's
a little bit.
awkward. You feel like, okay, now I'm on a like, what?
Like, what are we doing here exactly?
Right.
Yeah.
And I was of course older than he was, so again I was like, okay, this young people show. Like this
Right.
is fun, cool. Been here before. So, put on a Monopoly hat and you have to play the game. But either way, I became really close with his best friend.
Uh-huh.
We have a lot of similarities. And I think I think he'd do like, oh my gosh, I love you. And I think that was kind of like the seal of approval. But I knew he didn't like love me. It was just more like, okay, you can stay.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just a superficial statement.
Yeah, and I feel like, is that where that word is going now? Like, is it just a stamp of like, okay, here's your key card,
Well,
302.
I don't think it's only just now doing that. I think it's probably been doing that for a while.
Oh,
But-
sure. I feel like we are.
Yeah,
I feel like my people are being responsible. Like, I love you. But I
Right.
also think
I think social media now makes it go viral
Social
more
media.
quickly.
social media, okay, well, I was in the land of like MySpace, Tinynow.com, and all, and Holodot before we had Facebook and all those
Right.
things. And
I'm not modern social media.
sure, but gotta look at the stone wheel before you look at the
Sure.
Firestone. And man, I just sound like some old person.
Keep going.
I got that phrase looking at my hair in the mirror. And I'm seeing it in a sense of like, we had a lot more, I feel like, we were really sad. Like my generation, we had grunge and we had all the suicide music and the jewels and the, at least in my little people were just like,
Sure.
I didn't even know Third Eye Blind was advocating for like drugs. It was just, whatever. Not advocating, but there's songs about like, I was like, okay, cool. Not cool, but now when we said it, it was more like come out of the like, do like
It was like a pull you up sort of.
like we don't do this. Like we don't like. Come on, like
Let's band together.
Yeah,
Kind of.
like.
But see, I don't mind that as much as what we're doing now.
But now I feel like, but again, it's like I feel like these words come into this like little minefield, and then one of them hit a mine, and then it just blew up, and now it's turned into all these different species.
Yeah.
Of what I guess.
Well, if you're
No, again, I guess again, it's like almost like I'm trying to be fair to the collective of being like free will and people's ability to think freely and feel freely, and it's like, well, who the fuck am I to say what love actually should be defined as, and how we use it in today's communication?
But that doesn't mean you can't sense some truth.
But I'm curious
You
about
know.
like when you are feeling, when we are talking about creating bonds and connections with people, I almost want to say be careful, because there is a dark side to it. When people who truly are invested into that bond and connection and maybe are very word driven and word validated, and words are very powerful to them, and words of affirmation are kind of one of their love languages or whatever the case may be. People who use it loosely and then just don't live up to that expectation or commit to what they've just said. Or,
Well, that's like a giant miscommunication. Yeah.
but is it though?
I think, well, in the way that you just described it, I think it is.
But whose fault is that? Because
Neither.
I'm just being, because like I'm the person,
Neither.
let's say I'm on the end of the person who's like, oh my God, I accept what you said as a foundation of how we are to connect and bond. Not like we're gonna like there's some big celestial moon and stars and blah blah blah.
Right.
But like you said, you've put a stone into the foundation of friendship here.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, maybe we have to have a real, or maybe you have to tell me, kick me in the face. Maybe I gotta kick you in the face.
Right.
Maybe I hold you accountable to something you said that isn't.
Well, in the way you
Maybe I've been a real friend in that moment, and now all of a sudden now they're not ready for a real friendship, but they laid the foundation of that right in the first place.
followed you, but then lost me with that last part.
No, you know, like
So like,
I feel like right now at 40 and trying to make new friends and moving, like living in another part of, living in the South and living in Texas and trying to connect with new bridges of friendships, and still having some of my old ones, but knowing that those were the ones where we recycled the past, we revolved the past. There's a few that we talk about the future and motivate ourselves and da. But most of it is like, oh, I remember when.
Yeah.
Not. Wouldn't it be cool to or like.
Right.
Whatever.
So.
I feel like it's difficult for me at least, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but to navigate through that A, be in a community where that word is thrown around like candy crisps. That sounded so odd.
Be convicted with whatever you pick a stance. Pick a stance.
I mean,
and then if anyone else gets offended, that's on them. Like, pick a stance.
There she goes with cut through.
Well, because you outlined something so perfectly, and then you put a non-starter in it by asking where the fault was. I don't think that's the way.
Shout out to the man who knows who he is when I say this, but somehow I've gotten reinfected with using 20 words.
Huh?
So I've learned that sometimes I'm the worst ChatGPT version of myself when I have to put out a sentence of like, the answer is yes.
Oh yeah.
Y'all see? I wish I could zoom into her like,
hey.
Oh yeah. She was like, oh yeah.
But listen, so you outlined and you said if someone's love language is words of affirmation, and then someone who is not necessarily like that happens to use love in a more
they say the phrase. Like, oh, I love you.
Right, and they happen to use, but when they use that, it doesn't mean the same thing as if they were to use that. Right? And it doesn't hit them the same way as their words will hit this person because maybe their love language is different. Well, that's just it. They're just different. And then if there's a miscommunication there's no blame. It's talk it through. When you said this, what? Well, okay, maybe it is a lot of work, but you could assign blame all you want, but that doesn't solve the problem.
Oh no, I wasn't assigning blame. I think I was just.
Well, you said whose fault is it?
Well, where do you go from there?
You work it out.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, never mind.
Well, okay.
The truth to be told.
Well, look, okay, so let's say that happened between you and me.
I honestly think we also are coming from this discussion as emotionally mature people, or at least the pathway to a level of emotional maturity.
Oh, you want me to step it down? Okay.
No, I don't want you to step it down, but I feel like this is the part where I always feel like, even for me and in a group setting, this is what gets people going like, okay, this together. Or this is where I feel like you and I both would be like, oh, they're the mean ones, or they're the ones who don't like sugar. You know?
Yeah.
And it's not like, no. I'm not saying that what could is felt blah 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 whatever.
Yeah.
You know? The openness, overview, whatever experience of how everyone is exposed to it, sure. But I feel like when you have this, when you have a lot more notches in your work booth, and you have a lot more rips and tears in the work that you had to do to get to the path that you're on now, to maybe be at this group or at this table or in this.
It helps you not be so easily.
And
you know?
It helps you keep your boots on to keep walking your path.
It does, absolutely.
And I feel like that's the hard part about some of these new opportunities of trying to build friendships and connections. Now, I know there's this big consensus of like you don't need a lot of friends and people, and
I agree with that.
I agree with it as well. And I feel like society and social constructs and all the fucking buzzwords have created such an unrealistic reality and expectations of what we have to do to be connected to one another by all this shit.
Yeah, right?
Love languages, buzzwords.
Well, here's the other thing you consider, right? It's
like we're all over the place, but
we are, but this is a cool episode.
I love it.
So, how long have we been recording? I can't read it. I think it says I can't remember. But it's like
we'll wrap. We'll kind of
we'll
because I think that for the first time I want this to go to the airways. I really want to start a dialogue about this because do buzzwords really bug you? Are you do you still use buzzwords? And are they buzzwords to you guys? I want to know, do you feel like in your life, your environment, your friendships, your groups, your connections, they're not buzzwords, are actually genuine vocabulary and the dialogue that you guys use to show each other love, appreciation, acceptance, and positivity? Or is it just the facade of the bullshit that you've been like, oh my god, bitch?
Right.
If you say,
do you actually know what you're saying? You know?
Not only do you know what you're saying, but do you mean that?
Yeah.
And do you feel it when you say it? And do you feel like, just like in the very first episode, how are things going on within you is literally a question that almost invokes and demands a response of truth and feeling. If someone is using quote unquote buzzwords with you, is it doing the same thing? Is it giving you the same, like, I want to share and I want to bridge and, align with you in this moment so where we can elevate to a higher connection and involvement in each other's lives. Maybe you would change it for the better. But that's what I want. I really want to see how that wraps in. So please comment, tag us at Still Podcast and whatever you feel. Like, I want everyone to really start talking about it because I feel like this is the one thing that we as a group of people, as a mindset of people, as a community of people, can start asking ourselves, because that's what we're all about. Small talk is also sometimes small ways of thinking about bigger ways to communicate. And we've just tried to limit ourselves with just like, oh my God, I manifest, or oh, I love you, or
just hits one note,
some of these words are now just words and not momentums and not motivations and not magic anymore. And I'm just like, how do people make sense of it and make sense for themselves and, maneuver through their own lives when it's just like, well, did it mean anything? Because I feel like a lot of people are just in this place of being like, well, fuck.
They're just going along doing the things and.
Yeah, like there's all the facades. There's all the, if I make it look pretty, then it obviously is. Instead of saying, well, pretty is whatever you want it to be. If pretty is having two big old bushy eyebrows, girl, then it's pretty. Instead of having everything in front of you being like skinny, thin, trimmed, and almost shaved off. That's pretty.
That's
I don't
a fun
know.
one. That's another hot take.
So I want to invoke that among our little community
Get
of
to
leaders.
discussing.
Our
I'd
little
love to know what you
stillers.
have to say.
So yeah, get discussing. Leave the comments below. Tag us in your social media at Still Podcast. And I think I want to see. I'm curious. And if we see a lot, I do want to come back to this topic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we'll do a live.
I think there will be 100%.
And I think.
Well, at least I hope there will be. We would love to. Sometimes we say this and we don't get reactions, and it's because we're so new. But like as time goes on, like we would really genuinely love to interact and get different viewpoints on this stuff.
And if you guys have questions or want us to talk about something specifically around the subject of passion, or just what your version and connection and affiliation and just your environment with that word and how it sits with you, leave it in the comments below. Or I would say email us, but we're not there yet. So.
Not yet. We will be probably.
Yeah, pretty soon. But yeah, I think that's a really good place to leave.
Yeah, it's a good
to plant the seed of what I want to start as the choreography of our community, communicate about it. I mean, let's start there. I think it's a good place.
Definitely.
So, yeah. Also, guys,
We'll see you next time. And